I'd like to welcome everybody today and thank you for attending. My name is Rob Bloomstone and I'm the Director of Marketing for TANGO, and I'm happy that you're all able to join us today for our educational webinar, which is being hosted by our TANGO partner, Cause Inspired Media. Many of you are already TANGO members and some of you are not. So before I turn it over to Eric, I'd like to give you a quick overview on TANGO and just some updates about what we've been doing. As most of you know, TANGO's mission is to help nonprofits thrive. And, oh, Joe, I'm sorry. If you want to flip over to the next slide. One more. Oh. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, so currently we have over 1,400 members in our community, which make up around 160,000 employees in the sector. We also have 25 socially conscious business partners like Cause Inspired Media, who are for-profit companies that truly care about the nonprofit sector. And also, TANGO is based out of 3 hubs, and we continue to expand. Next slide. Membership to TANGO is free because of our TANGO partners who are for-profit companies that pay to be on our business platform. So our partners are carefully vetted and believe in helping nonprofits like yours. So as you can see in the slide, this is actually a snapshot of all the partners that we have on our business platform. Next slide, Joe. Each partner creates what we call a value proposition, where our partners provide exclusive programs and rates for their services. So, you know, if your business ever needs IT services, marketing services, you know, check out their value propositions, which are on our website. You can go to our partner page, and each partner created a unique page that lists all of their services. Next slide, Joe. And as you'll see here, this is, you know, kind of a snapshot of all of the array of services that we have. So once again, if you're ever in need of services, you know, you can reach out to the partners directly and just let them know that you're a member of TANGO. Next slide. Okay, the main frame of TANGO is threefold. So we have our web education and training programs like today's webinar. And we also had preferred services, which I pretty much just spoke about, where our partners can help you with your business needs. We also have mission support. Donation Depot is where our members can obtain free office equipment donated to TANGO. And currently, I think there's some desks, there's chairs, and there's a bunch of other items on our website. So all you need to do if your organization needs any equipment for your office, go to our website and then you can inquire about what's available. And once again, that's called the Donation Depot page. Next slide, Joe. Okay, we also have the TANGO Foundation, which supports continuing education of those rising stars who simply don't have the economic means for their own professional development. So you can read more about the Rising Star program on our website. And to nominate anyone who you think would be a good candidate for this annual scholarship, you know, there's actually a nomination form. So, you know, we were going to do the awards back in in November. But due to the whole COVID situation, we're actually moving the awards ceremony to possibly late April or early May. So there's actually still time to nominate anyone in your organization. Next slide, Joe. Lastly, we have our monthly news journal, which is called TANGO Trends. And each month we actually spotlight one of our members. So this is great exposure for your organization. And best of all, it's free advertising. So if any of you are interested in having your organization spotlighted in TANGO Trends, you can reach out to me directly. And if you're not receiving TANGO Trends, that means that you're not in our database. So if you're not in our database, all you need to do is just go to tangolines.org and you can sign up. It's a very quick form. And by doing that, you'll actually be able to get all of our communications. So once again, you know, there's never a cost to being a member of TANGO, and our mission is to help you thrive. So take advantage of all the offerings we have. And, I'm glad that everybody was able to join today. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Eric from Cause Inspired Media.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Joe, for having me to talk to your members. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about websites and what makes a good website and things of that nature. So as Rob had mentioned, my name is Eric Heineman. I'm the Senior Business Development Consultant and Director of Strategic Partnerships at Cause Inspired Media. And Cause Inspired does offer a lot of different digital marketing services. We actually specialize in the Google Ad Grant. But in order for something like the Google Ad Grant to be successful, you actually need to have a fantastic website to be paired with that. So that's why I thought this would be a really good opportunity to talk about this topic. So my background is that I actually started working with Cause Inspired about 15, 16 months ago. But prior to that, I was actually an independent consultant for nonprofits for over a decade. And so I've worked with over 200 organizations and have evaluated nearly 500 websites. So I've seen everything from, something that looks like it was built out of the late 90s to some really inspiring and fantastic websites. So I just wanted to share my knowledge and talk a little bit about what makes a really good website. Next slide, please. So the one most important thing about a website and what makes it important is the fact that it's all about the first impression. So whether someone's seeking a service that you offer for the community or someone interested in supporting you, it's really that first chance to make that first impression. That's how they're going to sort of evaluate. If you really think about it, when you are actually looking for a vendor yourself, just on a personal basis, or maybe something for the nonprofit, and you're visiting websites, the website says a lot to you about what that service that provider might offer you. If their website is clunky or old, you might think that they're sort of not on the cutting edge of whatever service you're looking for, things of that nature. So it's really important to have that first impression. Also, to have a lasting impression. You want something to leave that particular nonprofit or that person, that visitor, so they'll come back to your nonprofit. This could be just a good idea that you have, or a good resource, so they know they can come back and pick up additional resources later on. No matter what the reason is, you want that person to come back to your site time and time again. Next slide. So there's tons of different platforms that you could potentially choose in order to have your website hosted. And there's basically 3 options that I'm going to go over today. There's actually a whole bunch of other ones, but I've seen basically sort of option 1, where nonprofits will already have a service with a particular vendor, and that vendor offers a web service to sort of as an add-on. So here's a few different ones: DonorPerfect, Qgiv, Shopify even, and Blackbaud is a big one, and Sports Engine for those sports, youth sports organizations, things of that nature. Next slide. So of course, just like any of these options, there's pros and cons. Obviously, the pros of having these type of add-on vendors is the fact that it's one vendor that does it all for you. So it's easy, one-stop shopping, I guess, in a sense. It's part of a package. So sometimes you're paying for something already, and this is just something that you don't have to pay for in addition to having a website. And of course, the other thing is that they take care of everything. So you can make a phone call and they will, do everything for you. In some cases, they'll edit and update your website for you as well. The cons is that you're locked into an ecosystem. So you may have limited access of what you can and can't do on that website, which goes to Third one, which is low on options. You don't have a lot of options sometimes when it comes to creating a robust platform for your website. And then it can get expensive. Some of these companies, if you're going to, they sort of lock you in where if you want to do an update, you have to go through them. You can't do much on your own, and then they're going to charge you for that service. So you got to be sort of careful if you're going down that path. Next slide.
Hey, Eric.
Yes.
This is Rob. Hey, just one question. Actually, goes out to all the attendees. We have a chat box at the bottom, and we like our webinars to be interactive. So feel free to type in any questions. Eric's happy to answer any questions you might have during the presentation, and we can also take questions at the end. So
absolutely.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. Another option is sort of plug and play platforms. And I came across a lot of nonprofits that were using these because they could sort of do it themselves. So Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, those are three really popular platforms where they're sort of plug and play platforms. Next slide. And of course, the pros on here, they're pretty inexpensive, to be honest with you. They're not hard to update. They're really easy to update. That's why they're sort of plug and play. And hosting's included. So basically, it's an all-in-one platform where if you get a Wix website, for an example, they're going to actually host it for you. That's part of the payment. The cons, of course, is that they're limited in plugins, which means those are the plugins. Just for those who don't know, those are things, added features that you're able to put onto a website. So, and directly related and correlated to the website. Limited hosting options. So if you're not happy with their service, unfortunately, you only have one choice, and you have to host that particular website with them. And there's risk. So if they fail, these three are pretty strong. But if you were on one of these platforms and they got bought out, or they decided to close up shop, you have no place else to take that website, which means you have to start all over again. So you got to be sort of careful when choosing this particular platform as well. Next slide, please. And then, of course, there's sort of the dedicated and advanced platforms. Joomla, Drupal I see a lot, and then WordPress. Those are just a few of some of those dedicated and advanced platforms that a lot of nonprofits have their websites created with. Next slide. So the pros here, there's a price range. Some go from free up to, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. You get to host where you want to. So you could host with one provider. And if you're not happy with that provider, whether it's downtime or you just don't, like the pricing or whatever it is, you can just pick up and go somewhere else. And it's really not that challenging to change your host provider. And then the other pro is that they grow with you. So you might start off with a simple website, which a lot of nonprofits do. They'll start off with sort of a simple website. But then as you get bigger and want more content, or you want more services, you can actually add more services. In fact, these have, in many cases, have some fantastic and plenty of plugins. So basically, whether you want a donation platform, or you want a membership platform, or whatever it might be, they pretty much, or even a store, they have solutions for you. And the cons is that not all of these are equal. Some are a little bit easier to navigate and use internally than others. Others can be overwhelming. And then hosting, of course, is an extra cost. So, and hosting doesn't have to be that expensive. It could be just a few dollars, like $7, $8, $9 a month, all the way up to, I've seen hosting, $50, $60, sometimes $70 a month, depending on what services they add to those. Next slide. So I always like to mention that here at Cause Inspired, we dedicate ourselves using WordPress for a few different reasons. And here's 4 here listed. It is the most widely used platform in the world. Around 40% of all websites are actually built on WordPress. And that's pretty impressive when you think of the dozens of different platforms that are available, and they have almost 40% of all those websites. It's open source and free to use. So basically you can build your website on a WordPress website and really cost you nothing except for whatever you're gonna host. Now there is limitations in there. There's actually some add-ons that you can pay for. But that's the great thing about WordPress, is that it's very flexible based on what your needs and goals are when it comes to the nonprofit. And because it's open source, that allows third-party folks to actually create more plugins, which is actually the third bullet point here, is that it offers the most plugins. And the reason it offers the most plugins is because it's the most widely used. You have developers willing to invest their time not only to create the plugins, but they'll update them as well. And so that's really important too when it comes to selecting a platform. You want to make sure that not only the platform itself, but the plugins are being updated, because there's always security threats, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And it's really important to have a platform that takes security seriously and is constantly evolving, making sure that there's very little risk on your website. And the last piece is that it's pretty easy to use and to update. So when we build up the websites for nonprofits, we actually give them some training so they can actually take over the actual updating of their own website. And then of course, there's tons of different YouTube videos, again, because this is the highest used type of platform. There's tons of different YouTube videos to show you how to update or make edits to your website as well. Next slide, please. So what I want to do is sort of talk about some pitfalls about not maintaining your website or not having an updated website. And then later on, we'll sort of flip that and talk a little bit about some of the really great strategies when it comes to developing a website. So the pitfalls of not maintaining your website, the most important part, most likely, is the poor user experience. And that could equate to slow load times. You know, believe it or not, nonprofit people typically don't wait more than 3 or 4 seconds for a site to load before they just give up and they go on to the next page. People, unfortunately, are pretty not patient when it comes to waiting for slow load times. Another thing that I've seen time and time again is confusing navigation. It's sort of funny how websites have evolved. And I think people, when they go to a website, expect certain things to be in certain areas, no matter what the website is. I see websites where they'll have like their the top menu bar, where normally people would see a top menu bar. You'll see that off to the side, or you see where you have to click a button and then it shows up on the side or drops down. In other words, it's sort of hidden until someone clicks or does something. And those navigations really frustrate a lot of users because they're looking for the menu, but they can't find it, for an example. And then the third piece is low quality content. I see dozens of websites every single month when I'm talking to potential clients, mostly for the Google Ad Grant, but I want to sort of do a quick evaluation of their website. And a lot of times I will see where a website has been updated or not updated for, you know, not just months, but potentially sometimes years. So the content on there isn't relevant any longer. I'm talking to somebody who's not even on their website, you know, so they might have gone through, in some cases, 2 different executive directors before, you know, and they still haven't updated their website. They still have their old executive director on their website. So content really, really, really is important to keep updated and sort of relevant as well. The next piece is non-mobile friendly. over 50% of web page views are on a mobile device. And most of those are actually on a smartphone. And unfortunately, there's hundreds of different size screens. And if someone's looking at your website and they sort of have to, they can't read it because it's too small, because it's just been shrunk down on the device, which I see all the time. They're just not going to look at your website, and they're just going to go somewhere else. So it's really, really important to have a mobile-friendly website. Next slide. So I mentioned this a little bit, but outdated look and feel. So this has to do with even beyond relevant content. Right now, for the most part, is a lot of white space, but I still see websites where they'll have like some kind of design as the background, a colored background with different graphics, flowing through. And sometimes I'll see them where it's sort of a dark background with white, with light colored fonts and text. And those are sort of back in the 2000s, early 2000s. That sort of was really cool, but it sort of shows how dated your website might be if you're not sort of on the, new, on how it looks, in today's world. Too much text, where there's no visual content. I see where pages and pages are just constant text, and they just don't have any infographics or any kind of video or pictures that will help stimulate the mind a little bit. Time and time again, at least a couple times a week when I'm talking to somebody, I'll scroll down all the way down to the footer where they'll have sort of the copyrighted year. And at least once or twice a week, I'll see where the copyright year is old. And of course, I'll give somebody the benefit of the doubt if it said 2020, being March of 2021. But I'm talking 2016, 2018, 2019. Those just show me that they're not really paying attention to their website all that much. And then, of course, content hard to find. That's another thing that's really, really something to key on, is that if someone's coming, looking for the service that you provide and they can't find that, that can really frustrate somebody, and they'll just, leave your website and never come back. And that could be someone who wants to support you as well. So that's really important to make sure that your content is really easy to find. And then the next piece that I like to talk about is high bounce rate. Now, high bounce rate is a fancy way of saying that people aren't staying on your site, and that they are more likely than not just leaving. And it's because they don't think your information is useful. They just, within just a few seconds, they'll make a decision whether the content that they're looking for is, going to be available on your website. You want a higher interaction and engagement on your site. That's going to increase your donations. If people are sharing your content with others, you don't want to have to reevaluate your web design and content strategy with a better idea of the target audience, you want to make sure that your web design and content strategy is surrounded based on your target audience. That's really important. Next website, or next page, I'm sorry. Poor security. So as I mentioned before, security is really, really important. When people come visit your website, they want to feel secure. So the first thing I like to talk about is sort of HTTP versus HTTPS. This is really important. Basically, what the difference is that with the HTTPS, you have an SSL certificate, which is like a secure socket layer. That's what SSL stands for. And it shows users that your site is secure. So like if they're filling out a web form or some of that nature, or if they're filling out a for a donation, they can feel very confident with that SSL certificate that the information that they are providing you is secured and locked down. It's really important to do that. Not only that, but Google has also mandated, based on their rankings, that websites that have the SSL certificate rank higher than those who don't. An SSL certificate will cost around $50 to $70 per year to maintain. And so it's really important that if you don't have a secure website, that's one of the first things you should definitely go out and get. This also helps with what they call a DDoS attack. And basically a DDoS stands for distributed denial of service attack. And it's a malicious attempt to distribute the normal traffic over a targeted server. So basically what they do is they keep on pinging the server that your website's on, and they make it run really super slow. And and they sort of overwhelm that particular server. And so that means visitors can't access it. Suspicious amounts of traffic originate from a single IP address and IP range could be the culprit. And basically a flood of traffic from users who share a single behavior profile. It's basically that they're using your website for malicious reasons, or really your server. And it could really affect your website. I've actually seen websites that actually have hidden pages on their server. So they'll have literally hundreds of other pages that are that are being provided by another website. And a lot of times this is coming from Russia or China or other different countries. So basically what they're doing is using your server for their website. And a lot of times those web pages are less than on the up and up, I guess. So it's really important to make sure that your site and your server is very locked down when it comes to that kind of stuff. And then, of course, pitfalls of not maintaining your website is low SEO. For those who don't know what SEO is, it's search engine optimization. And these are those organic search results when you're using Google or Bing or whatever it might be. It's those results making sure that you're actually being ranked at a higher rate. But if you're not maintaining your website, then Google and Bing will continue to lower your ranking. They want to make sure that your site is relevant to the searches. And if you're not, if you don't have relevant content, or if your content doesn't seem to be updated, it's really going to lower your SEO. And honestly, this is probably the most important way that new people are going to find out who you are and the services that you provide. Next slide. So it's really important to figure out, if you're thinking about making a new website, or some of these things that I've talked about sort of are hitting home, like, oh, we haven't done this or we haven't done that. It's really important to sort of plan in advance how you want your next website to look like. So the return on your investment of time and planning is, like I said, make a plan. So whether you choose to use someone like us or use another provider, maybe it's somebody that's on staff. You want to choose the plugins that you think you're going to be using right away, but also be thinking in the future. What might we want to have our website do in the future? That's really important. You want to choose a responsive site. And that's what I was talking about when it came to mobile devices. A responsive site will actually sort of change its look a little bit. Like it changes how the text and the different photos and things of that nature line up in making sure that people get to see everything in a nice high resolution, but also the text is big enough where people can read it on a mobile device, but it changes no matter what size the device might be. And the third thing is make sure that you have a plan to being secure. That's really important as well. And as I had mentioned on a couple occasions, content's really important. In fact, content is king when it comes to having a successful website. You want to make sure that your mission is very clear and sort of center of your website. Obviously, you want, especially those first-time visitors coming in and seeing the website for the first time, knowing exactly what you do, the people you serve, and things of that nature. Also, you want to tell a story of why you serve. You know, so not only is it important to share with people who you serve, but why you do it. And then the third piece is what impact you have. It's great that you're serving XYZ in the community, but what impact are you having on those people that you serve? That's really important to make sure that you share that as well. Next slide. You want to mix it up. As I mentioned before, it shouldn't be all text-based. You want to make sure that there's infographics, pictures, videos. Make it really a fun site so people want to come and visit time and time again. It's really going to be important to mix it up. The one thing that I'll mention, I don't remember if I mentioned this a little bit later, but what you don't want to do is create like PDFs and then have those as your web pages with all the text and everything embedded in a PDF. The reason you don't want to do that is because Google can't read those things. And so your SEO will actually diminish if basically you create these PDFs and just embed those on the web pages. So you want to make sure that these are all organically placed on your websites as well. And of course, you want to make sure that you're relevant and current. So I don't know how many times I'll go and look at the events tab under somebody, under a nonprofit, and I see an event that happened 4 or 5 months ago, still on there like it's happening in the future. So that's just one example. You want to make sure that everything that is on your website is relevant and current. I mentioned your staff. Make sure that when someone leaves your organization that you update your website. Should be one of the first things you do, making sure that that person no longer is on your website. And as I mentioned, you want to make sure that you want to have your SEO really strong, which is going to, that's going back to the different platforms. Certain platforms, SEO tends to be a better impact than others. And then that also can be supplemented with the Google Ad Grant as well.
Hey, Eric, we actually have a question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have any insight to any tools or website building platforms that support ADA compliance or helps with maintaining it?
Let's see. In regards, is there an example like this in full ADA compliant?
Ivana, you want to, can you unmute your, go ahead.
That's fine. So hi everyone. My name's Savannah. Dione. I work at Advance over in Northwestern Connecticut. I'm the marketing and communication specialist. And one of the reasons I've joined today is because we've been having this conversation about our website and understanding that it's time to make some changes because we are someone that went with a smaller company and they helped build our website when we did a rebranding. So it's very specific to the use, but it's also aged out quite a bit. So on the front end, our website looks really good, but right now we're rethinking about how much we're able to do and thinking about how websites are transforming and the capabilities that some have. And we're in a unique situation because for some of our other programs, we are using Wix as a platform. But one of our concerns in rethinking like how we're going to utilize our website and whether or not we want to continue with the same company or we should be shopping for vendors is all of this stuff you're talking about. But we also are paying attention to the revival of like ADA compliance as a priority for a lot of, especially nonprofit organizations. And I'm just wondering if anyone knows of any that sort of like champion that or have tools to help with that. I was introduced to a site. I'll find the specific link. It's called like WebAIM or something that was developed that helps you scan your website to see where there may be issues for people that might have like, that might use like screen readers or have issues with contrast and colors. So it's just something that keeps popping up when thinking about the PDFs. Sort of made me think about it because screen readers can't necessarily read those if it's not formatted properly and there's just lots of bits and pieces. So I'm just wondering if there's some platform that might do some of this work as we're forward thinking, because it's gonna need to be a priority for us again. It sort of got swept under the rug with our last like administration, but it seems to be a conversation again. And it's something we were sort of like grappling with, but then got to forget about for a little while. But it's something that we expect will be at the forefront again. So I'm not sure if you have any real knowledge about what that looks like anyway, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you go to, not to do it right now, but if you go to our website called Inspired, we actually up on the top right-hand side have an accessibility menu, which allows people to change the contrast, have a different color of highlighting links so they can see, you know, if they're colorblind or have, like you said, have trouble seeing different colors. They can make the text bigger or smaller. They can make the text spacing, you know, wider if they need to. There's a lot of different tools that they can choose from based on that. So I think that might be something that you might be looking at, is where someone can go and then they can choose how they view your website through this accessibility platform. Does that help answer your question?
Kind of. I more so would be curious, and this doesn't have to be for now, but how that was developed or what it's a part of, or
yeah, so it's a plugin. That. It's a plugin that we're able to use through our WordPress site. So a third party has created it, and we've able to just sort of put it in there, and it's able to, if I'm not mistaken, how this works. It's called Userway. Is the third party platform, and if I'm not mistaken, basically what they're able to do is sort of read your website and make the changes that they need to by giving control of that website.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Another really important part, let's see. Yep, you can go to the next slide, please. The really super important part of making an impact on your website is making sure that you have plenty of calls to action. Again, this is where I see nonprofits sort of struggle time and time again, where they might, you know, for a donation, you know, a lot of them now are getting a little bit better where you see where the donation button's on every page and it's dominantly, you know, at the top of the page or what have you. But I still see websites where the donation button is sometimes on the bottom of each page, which some people never get down to the bottom page, or you might have to click 3 times in order to get to the donation button, you know, type of thing. Same with the volunteer or newsletter. I see nonprofits do a really good job of having sort of that pop-up bubble. So when someone's visiting the website for the first time, if they're trying to get people to potentially sign up for a newsletter, or they have a certain initiative that they're trying to promote, that will be in that pop-up bubble. And that's really, really a great way to sort of get the attention of that user and have them potentially go to that call to action and actually do what you want them to do. So that's really important. And here's some other call to actions. You know, events, making sure that as the event gets closer and closer and you're trying to get more people involved in that event, make sure that that is front and center on that first page. Make sure that if someone wants to contact you, that it's pretty easy for them to contact you. I see a lot of times where nonprofits, they sort of want to be exclusive, I guess is the right word, where they might have a form that you can fill out, but you're just never sure 100% whether that form is going to get to the right person. And they refuse to add their key personnel's email addresses. So they might have their personnel like, hey, here's this person and this is what they do, and here's this person and here's what they do, but there's no way of actually contacting that person directly. And I get it, you know, you don't want them to be bombarded by salespeople and things of that nature, but here's this person who really wants to help the organization, and they're just not sure 100% if that form is going to get to that right person. So I think it's sometimes, you know, a good idea to include a way to contact that person directly. And of course, everyone wants to grow their social media. So you want to make sure that there's ways for people who can actually get to your social media pages pretty easily, or at least able to sort of like and share your social media as well. And then another thing is disclosures and compliance. So I think it's really important for nonprofits to show their sort of be front facing when it comes to financial disclosures, and be as transparent as possible when it comes to that. I think it's really super important. And of course, you want to make sure that you stay in compliance with making sure that you have other disclosures that are basically needed as well.
Eric, we have a question. We have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you touch on privacy policies for a website? How important are they? Do you need one if you are using a platform like Wix? What is the best way to create one?
Yeah, so in my opinion, every website needs to have a privacy policy. I'm not sure 100%. I'd have to go to my development team to confirm this. But I'm pretty sure nowadays you have to have a privacy policy. Of course, there's sort of those generic ones, but you want to make sure that you read them through and make sure that it fits everything that you're looking to have as your privacy policy. And you got to make sure that you're actually following that as well. It's hard, for an example, to have a privacy policy and follow it if your site is not secure, because most of the part of that security or that privacy policy touches upon the security of your website and how you're going to maintain it and keep it secure for anybody who comes to your website as well. So I think it's really important to have them. But I'll find out, and just so you guys all know that I'll be sending out sort of a email to everybody, thanking them for participating and even reaching out to those who couldn't make it. And in that email, I'll be able to fully answer that particular question to make sure. I want to make sure I'm giving you good advice.
Yeah, in the email as well, we'll be recording of this webinar. And
yeah.
We have another question regarding disclosures and compliance. Other than privacy terms of use, copyright notice, etc., what else would a nonprofit need?
Those are the big ones. If you want to go, I forget what it's called now off the top of my head. If you're trying to reach an international crowd, then you're going to have to also offer the European compliance. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that would be the other one, is you want to make sure that you're staying in compliance with the European disclosures as well. So that's the only other one that you would definitely need and we would recommend. But everything else, like I said, like financial disclosure, for an example, that's recommended, but it's not a necessity.
Molly asked, in reaching, do you mean targeting? And Molly, feel free to
yes.
unmute your microphone if you'd like to take the question further.
Yes.
Hello to you. Hi. I'm in the process actually of working with an attorney regarding all these things. And when you talked about international, I mean, I guess, you know, when you have a website out, it is actually international because anyone can. My question is, if you go with the international, does that mean you're actually targeting international? And because mine's going to be more local and more regional and then national.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Not necessarily targeting people, you know, in Europe.
Yeah, and how we view the European policy is when targeting, meaning that those that you're trying to actually reach them. Of course, okay, if they happen to find you, that's, you know, it is what it is. But if your service, you know, if your nonprofit is offering a service for people in the European nations, or you're trying to reach supporters, then that's when you have to make sure that you're being in compliance with them as well.
I mean, I'll take money from anywhere, but
oh yeah. If they happen to stumble across you, whether it's through a Google search or something of that nature, that's completely different. But if you are, what it would really come down to is, like, if you were reaching out to them first.
Oh yeah.
That's when you have to be more aware of that.
Understood. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. All right. Just the next slide. So the sort of the takeaway here, and this is sort of in closing, I think it's really important for nonprofits to understand that your website is sort of a living and breathing organism of your nonprofit. You don't finish your website project, and then you sort of, you know, give each other a high five and say, all right, we're done for the next 10 years. We don't have to do anything. It's not that at all. It's if you're updating your social media on a daily basis, you need to be literally being in your website on a daily basis. It's that important in making sure that you are updating. It's constantly evolving as new initiatives come to mind, as new events come up, things of that nature. I think it's really important that you have to continue to evolve your website. And then the next slide is that basically we're here at Cause Inspired. It won't be just me, but our team will be offering a free website audit or an evaluation. And so when I send that email out to you guys, I'll have a form that you guys can fill out if you're interested in that service. And we'll sort of give you sort of an idea of what we think where your website is, and even some ideas of how you can improve that.
Next slide, Joe. Let's see. So are there any more questions anybody has? While I'm doing the closing, if you can think of any questions, or if you have any questions, you can certainly type in the chat box. So thanks, Eric. That was great, really informative. And, you know, once again, all of our partners are here for you as members, and they truly care about the nonprofit sector. So, you know, take advantage of their services. You can reach out to them directly if you have any questions, inquiries. Eric would be happy to, you know, answer any questions you might have. One more announcement I'd like to make. Most of you, I'm guessing, fall in the marketing realm who are on this call today. And we have another webinar coming up on March 25th, which is focusing on the power of video. and how to promote your organization through video. It's being hosted by Awcast, and I really can't say enough about Awcast. They have done such an amazing job for Tango and our members, putting promotional videos together, and are really just a pleasure to work with. So the invite is actually going out this afternoon, I'm pretty sure. So feel free to register if you'd like. And, you know, if you're not in the marketing realm, you can certainly pass it on to your coworkers as well. So, oh, one more thing. If you do want your organization showcased in Tango Trends, you can reach out to me directly. Once again, there's no charge for it, and it is great exposure for your organization. And it looks as though we have another question here. It was somebody who wasn't able to join at the top of the session. So yeah, there will be a recording. We are recording this, and we'll be sending it out to everybody either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So it doesn't look like there's any more questions. So thank you everybody for joining, and we appreciate your membership, and hopefully everybody continues to stay safe. So thanks again.